Okay, so I want you to imagine something. Picture a story written in a prison cell that ends up shaping language, literature, and faith for like over 350 years. Sounds pretty wild, right? Well, that's the incredible story of John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress. And today, we are going to dive into this amazing tale of adventure, danger, and ultimately, redemption.
Everything, the entire story, kicks off with this one desperate cry: what shall I do to be saved? And you gotta understand, this isn't just some casual question. It's a crushing weight, a real burden. The man asking it, who we're about to get to know as Christian, is completely overwhelmed. He's crushed by the weight of his sin, he's terrified of what's coming next, and he knows, deep down, he has to find an answer or he's done for. This right here, this is where it all starts.
All right, Section 1, A Prisoner's Vision. Now, to really get this journey, we first have to get the guy who dreamed it all up. And, the world that literally threw him in prison. Trust me, where this story comes from is just as intense as the story itself.
So yeah, believe it or not, this book was written in a prison. The author, a guy named John Bunyan, was a tinker. He fixed pots and pans. But his real passion? He was a Baptist preacher. And back in 17th century England, that was a huge problem. See, if you preached outside the official Church of England, you were breaking the law. And Bunyan, well, he just wouldn't stop. So for that, he was thrown in jail for 12 long years. And it was from that cell that he came up with this absolute masterpiece.
You have to remember, Bunyan was writing in a seriously chaotic time. I mean, look at this timeline. The English Civil War kicks things off, then the monarchy comes back and just outlaws any preaching they don't like. This wasn't some quiet academic debate about theology. Oh no. The fight over how to worship God was a matter of freedom versus a jail cell. Sometimes it was literally life or death. And that intensity, that high-stakes world, you can feel it on every single page of this book.
So, next up, the soul's journey. So the question is, with everything going on, how in the world did Bunyan get these huge, complicated religious ideas across to the average person? Well, he did it by creating this amazing symbolic world that anyone could step into.
His secret weapon was allegory. Basically, the whole story is presented like it's a dream he had. And this wasn't just him being clever. It was actually a revolutionary move. It was his way of taking theology out of the hands of stuffy scholars and giving it to everyone. He turned these giant abstract ideas, sin, faith, temptation, into actual people and places you could picture. Suddenly, it didn't matter if you could read Latin or not. You could understand the journey.
And Bunyan actually had to defend this. People criticized his style. But he basically said, hey, why can't I write like this? I love this quote from him. Dark clouds bring waters when the bright bring none. What he means is, yeah, his story might seem a little dark or confusing with all its metaphors, but just like rain clouds, it's those dark parts that bring real nourishment and truth. He was like, look, the Bible does it all the time with parables. He was using earthly stories to get at heavenly truths. And the setup is just genius in its simplicity. It boils down to three things. 1, you've got your main guy, a man named Christian. 2, he's got a huge problem, this massive, heavy burden on his back that you can literally picture. It's the weight of all his sin. And 3, he's got a clear goal. Get from his home, the city of destruction, all the way to the distant celestial city, which is basically his version of heaven.
Okay, part 3, mapping the dangers. Now you might think Christian just has to walk from point A to point B, but no way. His path is a total obstacle course. It's packed with physical dangers, sure, but the real threats are the treacherous ideas he runs into. What Bunyan did was basically draw a map of all the spiritual traps that a person could fall into. So it's super important to get this. The journey isn't just about dodging giants and monsters like in a fantasy novel, it's about navigating these incredibly dangerous ideas. Every villain, every scary swamp, every obstacle he meets, they aren't just random. Nope. Each one is a specific symbol, a carefully designed warning about a particular spiritual trap Bunyan wanted his readers to avoid.
Let's break down a few of these. So, you've got Mr. Worldly Wiseman. This guy is slick. He tells Christian, hey, forget that hard path. Just be a good, moral person. That's enough. He's selling a shortcut that completely misses the point of faith. Then there's Talkative. Oh, we've all met a talkative. He knows all the religious lingo, sounds super spiritual, but it's all just talk. His heart hasn't changed one bit. And then there's the terrifying giant Despair, who traps Christian in Doubting Castle. This guy is the voice in your head that says, you've messed up too much. There's no hope for you. God could never forgive you. It's that crippling loss of hope. And this right here, this is the absolute heart of Bunyan's theology. It's a crossroads.
On one side, you have the wicket gate. It's narrow, it's hard to get through, and you have to leave everything behind. This is the path of salvation through faith alone. On the other side, you've got the town of morality. The road there is wide, it's easy, it looks respectful and safe. This is the path of trying to save yourself by being a good person. For Bunyan, this choice, right at the beginning, is everything. It's the most important decision you'll ever make.
Let's move on to our next section, a path through history. Because this powerful story, cooked up in a jail cell, definitely did not stay there. It just exploded onto the world stage and kept on going.
So just how far did it travel? Well, take a look at this number. Over 200. What's that? That's how many languages the Pilgrim's Progress has been translated into. That is absolutely staggering. For centuries, in many parts of the world, it was the most published book besides the Bible. Clearly, there was something in this story that spoke to people way beyond just 17th century England.
And its influence is just huge. I mean, it inspired countless other writers, from huge names like Charles Dickens all the way to C.S. Lewis. But what's really wild is how it seeped into our everyday language. Have you ever heard someone talk about being stuck in a slough of despond, or called some glitzy, superficial place of Vanity Fair? If you have, you're literally quoting Bunyan, probably without even realizing it. That's how deep its roots go.
Okay, final section. Why the Pilgrim walks on. This brings us to the big question, right? Why are we still talking about this? Why does a religious story from a Puritan preacher, written hundreds of years ago, still grab us today? Well, I think the answer is that the journey itself is totally universal.
Think about it. Christian's burden was his sin. But what's the modern burden? What's your burden? For some of us, it might be anxiety. For others, it's that crushing pressure to succeed, or maybe just a nagging feeling that life is meaningless. The book taps into something we all feel at some point, that sense of being weighed down by something, and that deep, desperate need to break free.
And that, right there, is why this story is timeless. It's a map of the human quest for meaning, for purpose, for redemption. You don't have to be a 17th century Puritan to get it. We all understand wanting to move from a bad place to a better one, from destruction to hope. It's just this perfect metaphor for any journey of transformation, for trying to overcome the stuff that holds us back.
So, I'm going to leave you with this to think about. If John Bunyan were alive and writing his story today, what would the dangers look like? What would the slough of despond be? Maybe endless scrolling through bad news? Would Vanity Fair just be Instagram? Would Talkative be that pundit on TV who shouts all the time but never says anything real? See, that's the genius of it. The framework is so strong that every single generation can look at it and see their own struggles, their own journey right there on the page.
This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.